Hello and thanks for checking out ChartGuys.com. We're proud to be one of the most successful technical analysis communities online, teaching you the skills to become a more confident, effective, and informed trader. Join our community of hundreds of analysts worldwide working together to learn the charts, generate profit, and achieve financial independence. For access to daily live chart analysis and market coverage, a thriving chat community, along with dozens of hours of exclusive educational materials. We look forward to seeing you. Let's check out some charts. So, huge volatility, huge opportunity. I don't even know where to begin. I've never seen anything like this in the stock world in my entire life. I've seen it with penny stocks, but to see it happen with billions and billions of dollars is insane. So, tons of opportunity in both directions. I personally had a great day. I actually had a day 50% bigger gains than on Friday, and that's because I was playing in both directions. And obviously, when you have a ton of volatility and play in both directions, you can make a lot of money. So we were bullish in the first half of the day and bearish the second half of the day. And so I started the morning with a game plan, and my game plan was swinging ACB. So I said, all right, I'm going to lock in my ACB gap up open right away, because that's just going to make my day already. It'll be a week maker. And we could see pre-market with CGC and TLRY and Cron that we had euphoria to the max. We had big gap up opens, and it looked to me like a climax kind of day. Just, 3 days of bounce already, an extreme push to the upside with a gap up open, a lack of support. When you gap up, there's a lack of support. General rule of thumb, gap ups are for selling, gap downs are for buying. And so I sold first thing. And another thing to be part of the game plan was that every single day we see CGC with a higher open and then a quick sell-off first thing, and then bulls buy that dip. So I said going into the day, all right, I'm going to sell ACB first thing, and then I'm going to buy the CGC dip and flip that. And it played out perfectly, and my day was made in the first 20, 30 minutes of trading. And then from there, just went absolutely nuts. I made it, let's look at my trades here. Here's my trade list on the day, and ended up with 45 individual trades. So I was trading CGC, ACBFF, Netflix was mixed in there a little bit. I traded TGODF, Cron puts, CGC puts, TLRY puts. So lots going on. And there were some clues. So really this was a gut feel. How did I feel like the bears were going to show up? Here's the chat room, midday, 11:37. I said I'm all out TGODF for a small loss, and I was trying to get in for the CNBC pump, but my stop level was hit before we got to that point. Missed out on some big gains there, but that's fine. And one thing I want to point out is every single trade that I made today out of those 45 trades, you could look at that individual trade and you could say, oh, you could have bought in cheaper or you could have sold higher. And I'm not nailing the tops and bottoms. Well, I nailed TLRY top, but the bottom line is there's no perfect trades. And you don't have to hit the top and the bottom. You can get the meat in the middle and still have a very worthwhile trading day. So here I was saying, I flipped Cron puts. I'm still in a third of them. I have a rug pulled out feeling for today I cannot shake. And at that point in time, just before noon, everything was still all bulls. So here we are at 11:35. This is when I said it, right after the high of the day on CGC was hit. And then the bears showed up after that. But it was just this feeling of, again, 3 days in a row, extreme euphoria, multiple higher opens, a big gap up open today, and no support nearby. And things just slowed down. The bulls, they got a new high of the day, but there wasn't a ton of follow through. And it just felt like the rug was going to be pulled out, which it obviously eventually was. So I'm not going to go into my individual trades, obviously, in terms of where my timing was. I'll go into one here. I entered CGC puts right here on this bounce attempt because we lost the 5-minute higher lows for the first time today. And I said, all right, I'm going to enter puts on a lower high. I expected a stronger bounce. We didn't get it, and it looked a lot like a bear flag. So I entered puts here, and I exited after we got the follow through. The Cron puts that I entered at the high of the day. And that's just because we were so extremely overbought. When the 5-minute time frame goes straight up, even healthy normal consolidation is a worthwhile trade. So I didn't even need to nail the top on that one. I could just say, all right, we're going to look for healthy consolidation, and I'll exit. And I did. I sold in the first 15 minutes of this pullback, knowing that a 5-minute higher low would form. And obviously, if I held longer, it would have been worth a lot more. But again, it's one of those things where I just locked in the gains and I moved on to the next trade. I shorted TLRY today. I bought puts, and I nailed the top because of 300 psychological resistance. And I looked at the 5-minute time frame, and I said, if you're going to run up from $240 to $300 with no consolidation, I looked at the volume climax, and I entered puts at pretty much 297. And I entered the next week 300 puts at 85.10. The low of the day was 83. I sold half of them at 105, and I am still holding half of them. It's a small enough position that the crazy fluctuations that we're seeing after having a fantastic day, I'm not really worried about it. So I'm holding it to see what happens tomorrow. And I did just trade TLRY again after hours in the 180s, but the bulls are buying that dip a bit. So I'm going to likely exit that tomorrow regardless. It'll most likely be profitable. And it was just really nice to nail that top. Again, things were just so extreme that it said, all right, enough is enough. I'm going to begin building a position. And fortunately, we saw a significant pullback and then all these halts with all the volatility that TLRY was seeing. And there's opportunity in both directions. We're seeing huge dumps and huge bounces, 226 to 266, 151 to 217. So the bottom line is the volatility is here to stay. If you are an investor or newer to this, I mean, I don't know what you can be doing here, but it's the Wild West right now. If you are an experienced trader, this is the glory fields. I don't even know what that means, but this is as good a situation as you can hope for. I know that the Canadian MJ sector is going to give me trading opportunity for the next month at least. I don't even have to prepare in the morning. I can wake up an hour before the open, see where the levels are pre-market, establish my game plan. But in terms of saying, what am I going to play today? The answer is always Canadian MJ. And that's because of the volatility in both directions. And I got a lot more comfortable playing those options now. I've avoided them due to the lack of liquidity. But when you see action like we saw today, there's certainly enough volatility to make that worthwhile. So let's get into the regular old analysis like we normally do. And I'm all cash heading into tomorrow. Protecting those gains, not giving anything of it back. It's been a beautiful 4 days in a row here. And I'm just going to continue doing what I've been doing the last 4 days and keep this up. So we were looking for the most likely scenario to be a lower high compared to some resistance levels. Most names did not see that with the euphoric open that we saw today, but we did reject from resistance. The all-time high was not hit on CGC, fell shy by 91 cents, and interestingly enough, the S&P 500 rejected from its all-time high by 5 pennies today. So we rejected and we pulled back. So what we're now looking for is a 4-hour equilibrium. So the most important range to be watching on any individual name is the low of Friday and the high of today. And from there, we're going to trade within this range, in my opinion, for the next 3 or 4 days. Maybe the sector is crazy. Let's say 2 or 3 days. We're going to trade within this range. We're going to look for a higher low compared to the low of Friday. Maybe that's already been set. CGC did see some nice buying at the end of the day. And they just released a Form 4 or a Form 6K, I should say. Fidelity just froze on me. We'll have to see what that is. So that's just information on the Constellation deal on that 6K that just came out. So the question first thing tomorrow is our 4-hour higher low set? The low of today, 46.20. We saw a strong enough bounce at the end of the day that is possible. Right now, after hours, we're trading over 49. So that's entirely possible. First thing tomorrow, can 46.20 hold? If 46.20 holds, that's a bottom fishing level. If I can make an entry, I put my stop below that level if we get close enough to it. I would love to see a weaker open. I'd love to see bears push the price down, open in the 47s, and put my stop below 46.20 and make an entry. If we see a bounce, we're going to look for a 4-hour lower high compared to 55.69 and a tightening range. Obviously, news can change anything. Right now, there's 2 major news events to be watching for in this sector. Number 1, deals with big companies. We all know that. Number 2, private placement deals or dilution, essentially. We're going to be looking for these names to begin issuing shares at these crazy levels to get the most bang for their buck in terms of raising capital. That's going to be a signal that's going to cool off this euphoria, in my opinion, because once one company does it, I believe that others are going to start doing it, and the share price is going to react bearishly to it because it means dilution. It means an increase in the supply of shares, and the price should react to that. So that's news to be keeping an eye out for. We've been watching all this bullish news from these companies. Keep an eye out for that bearish news that we are seeing shares being raised and shares being issued, money being raised and shares being issued into the market. So that's something to be watching for on the bearish side of things. And as of right now, CNBC came out and started talking about overvaluation. That contributed to the sell-off today. TLRY, the bubble popping at 300, also contributed to the significance of the sell-off, in my opinion. And I said in the chat room a week ago, this is almost bad at this point for the MJ sector, how inflated we are getting, because when we drop the 50% that we know is coming, it's going to make the entire space look speculative and scary and risky. So that's something to keep an eye on as well. TLRY, the dollar volume today was just insanity. I'm looking at, what, 6 billion? Maybe $6 billion traded. Crazy. So people are now saying maybe TLRY is running the sector due to the dollar volume behind it. That's a possibility. That's something I'm going to be keeping my eye out for going forward. And the timing of the top, let's look at that real quick. CGC hit the high of the day a lot earlier at 1125, and TLRY hit that top at 250. So not a ton of correlation there, but definitely going to be keeping an eye on how these names are interacting with each other. So it's all about the 4-hour time frame. That's the most clarity in terms of levels to be watching. I'm all frazzled here just coming off the trading day, so bear with me. So again, all about the low today. Can we hold it first thing tomorrow? For WEED, it's 59.70. If 59.70 breaks, we're still going to look for a higher low compared to 52.80. And if we do hold 59.70 and start to bounce, we're going to look for a lower high compared to 72. APH, big sell-off today. So APH is the only one that respected the most likely scenario here, which was a lower high compared to those levels and then a pullback and a higher low compared to the Friday dump. So APH, nice technically speaking. And we're looking for that higher low. Same thing, 1857. Can that level hold first thing tomorrow morning for the bulls? If it can, then we're going to look for a bounce and a lower high compared to 2158. And if it cannot, we're going to look for further pullback, but a higher low compared to 1576. So again, there's two scenarios for all these names tomorrow. Can they hold the low of this pullback? If so, that's a sigh of relief for the bulls. If not, take a step back, be patient because we have to form a new support level, still anticipating it will be above the low of Friday. ACB, huge day today. So sold that gap up open, definitely left some money on the table. Again, every single trade, you could look at every one of my trades and say that I could have done a better job in a certain way. But if you sit there and nitpick about what you did wrong, you're going to miss out and you're going to be negative about everything that you did right. So I profited out of those 45 orders. They were partial positions. I probably, went 85% with my win rate today, and my losses were extremely small. So I had a very, very profitable day and essentially a month maker kind of day today. And I could, get down on myself for saying, I sold T-God right before not right before, but an hour before a 15% bull move that would have been another month maker. But again, you cannot get down on yourself. You have to say, I did really well today. I executed in both directions. I stayed calm, cool, and collected. I didn't panic. I didn't react to my emotions. You can look at all the positives rather than focusing on the negatives, and that helps you psychologically going forward, and it helps you in every aspect of life. I just went on an incoherent rant about life, so we'll cut that out for now. ACB, so it's the same thing, the 4-hour time frame. We're watching for a higher low to form, except in this instance, we're not looking at the low of Friday. I'm looking at the low of the gap up. So 950 is the most important level for me. We're looking for a higher low compared to that level, and we are wondering, is it formed at 1018? So just like all the other names, is the low of this pullback going to hold the low of tomorrow? If it does not, we look down to 10 psychological and 950. If it does, we look for a bounce, but we look for a lower high compared to 1256 and a tightening range. That's essentially what I'm expecting on every name from now. Tightening ranges. We saw today with the huge volatility and huge ranges were established, and now we trade within those ranges while we wait for things to tighten up, and then next week they give us a break of those tightening ranges to increase that volatility again. So looking at Cron on the daily time frame, huge follow through after yesterday's action as well. The 4-hour chart, we are looking at the low of the Friday dump down at 926. We're looking for a higher low compared to that level. We don't know if it's the low of this pullback just yet. 1160 has to hold for the bulls tomorrow. If it does, we look for a lower high compared to 1530 on a bounce. If it does not, then we look for a higher low compared to 926. So again, everybody, it's all about the low of consolidation to this point. TLRY has a huge range, so I personally am going to be watching for opportunity here as well. Volume climax on the daily, huge range that we're gonna trade within this range, in my opinion, for the next few days at least on TLRY. 15-minute time frame, extended hours is giving us some levels. 151.40 and 217.75 is currently the range. If the if the bulls break 217.75, we're going to look up to the two pretty much psychological levels, 220, 30, 40, and so on. And if we fall back down, pretty much you can look at the 5-minute time frames. Things are so volatile. Look at this equilibrium. So after volatility is when equilibrium patterns form. And right now the tightest range to be watching in extended hours, 195 support, 214 resistance. And I'm just rounding a little bit there. But that's what we're looking for on a broad time frame. So here on the 5-minute time frame, huge dump, bounce, and then trading in a tightening range. We're looking for that on longer term 4-hour time frames for the entirety of the sector. So again, just to reestablish things before I get off this computer and go to the beach and chill out, it is very important to take your mind off of things. It can be very overwhelming. And if you're doing this on a day in, day out basis, you're going to fry your brain. So make sure you're taking time for yourself and get out in some nature. But bottom line, we're watching the low of consolidation on all individual names. TLRY, if we break 300 anytime in the next week, we'll eat 6 bananas on video. And so we're looking at the low of consolidation. Can that hold tomorrow? First thing, if it does, that's a sigh of relief for the bulls. If it does not, we're still looking for a higher low compared to the Friday dump, but the bears are going to have the upper hand temporarily. The way that after hours action is going right now, I would anticipate that the bulls are going to be able to hold that level at least first thing. Aside from that, the high of today's resistance, tomorrow I'm going to be a lot more cautious, and that's because we don't have a lot of clear levels. We have so much space in between our clear levels that we don't have clarity in terms of where our stop levels would go, on where our profit targets would go. So I'm going to slow way down as we form tightening ranges. Cryptocurrency has been forming a weekly tightening range for 8 months at this point. I have stopped trading cryptocurrency the last month. I've made maybe 2 trades in the last month. That's obviously because I'm focused on Canadian MJ, but I'm waiting because the range and the clarity is, as the range gets tight, the clarity gets a little bit choppy, and we wait for the breaks of tightening ranges to indicate reaction. So everybody that loves to trash technical analysis doesn't understand how it works. They think we're predicting. I don't predict anything. I look at what the most likely scenarios are, and then I react. So I look for tightening ranges, and I react to the tightening ranges breaking. So that's what I'm going to be doing now, slowing down my trading, putting my foot on the brake pedal, not giving back any of the gains that I've had over the last 4 days, and then waiting for tightening ranges with clear levels to give me some breaks to act on. And they're going to happen on the shorter term timeframes. Maybe we can act on some of those tomorrow. But as far as the longer term timeframes go, we're probably not going to get nice tight ranges for another day or two. Maybe Friday we'll get some tightness. If not, then early next week. That's where we stand. Again, if you are new, this is not the trading environment to be learning in. This is expert level speed and volatility. And if you are doing well, congratulations. Congrats on the good day. And protecting those profits is always a good idea. And now we look for tightening ranges on the 4-hour time frame. We'll see you tomorrow. Take some deep breaths.